The stars had forgotten about Earth. 300 years ago, the Council of the Stars had looked at humanity and decided they were not worthy. They called humans violent. They called them primitive. They called them dangerous. And then they built a wall of energy around the entire solar system and left humanity to die alone in the dark. Admiral Una Park stood at the window of her office on the moon base and looked at the distant stars. She was 52 years old, with gray streaks in her black hair and eyes that had seen too much. Behind those stars, she knew, were thousands of worlds filled with alien species who had decided long ago that humans were nothing more than animals. Dangerous animals that needed to be locked away. But the Council had made a terrible mistake. They had assumed that isolation would break humanity. They had assumed that humans would fight among themselves until nothing remained. They had been wrong. Una turned away from the window when her door opened. Dr. Tai-Ho Kim walked in, his white coat stained with coffee and his hair messy from days without sleep. He was carrying a tablet computer in his shaking hands, and his eyes were wide with something between fear and joy. "Admiral," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We did it." Una felt her heart skip. She had heard those words many times in her career, and they usually meant nothing. But something in Tai-Ho's face told her this time was different. "Show me," she said. Tai-Ho placed the tablet on her desk and pulled up a video. It showed a small test ship, no bigger than a bus, floating in space near Jupiter. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship began to glow with a strange purple light. The light grew brighter and brighter until Una had to look away. When she looked back, the ship was gone. Where did it go? She asked. Tai-Ho smiled. "Everywhere and nowhere. Admiral, we have created a working dark matter engine. That ship did not travel through space. It stepped outside of space entirely. It moved through a dimension that the Council does not even know exists." Una sat down slowly. For 3 centuries, humanity had worked in secret. They had taken their anger and their fear and their pride, and they had poured it all into science. Every child learned physics before they learned to read. Every factory built parts for machines that most people would never see. Every dream was aimed at one single goal. Breaking free. And now, finally, they had done it. How fast? Una asked. "There's no speed," Tai-Ho said. "The ship simply exists in one place, and then it exists in another. Distance does not matter. We tested it from Jupiter to the edge of the solar system. It took less than 1 second." Una closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother, who had died 20 years ago. Her grandmother had been a child when the Council built their prison around Earth. She had spent her entire life looking up at stars she could never reach. She had died still looking. "Can we build bigger ships?" Una asked. "We can build anything," Tai-Ho said. "Admiral, the dark matter does something else. Something I did not expect." He pulled up another video. This one showed the test ship firing a beam of purple light at a small asteroid. The asteroid did not explode. It did not break apart. It simply stopped existing. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was nothing but empty space. What happened to it? Una asked. "It was removed from reality," Tai-Ho said. "The dark matter beam does not destroy matter. It erases it completely. There is no debris, no radiation, no evidence that anything was ever there." Una stared at the screen for a long time. She thought about what this meant. She thought about the Council and their thousands of warships. She thought about the energy barrier that had kept humanity trapped for 300 years. "How long until we can build a fleet?" she asked. 20 years, Tai-Ho said. "Maybe less if we push hard." "Then we push hard," Una said. She stood up and looked out the window again. The stars seemed different now. They seemed closer. Tell no one outside the project. We build in secret. We train in secret. And when we are ready, we show the council what they created when they locked us in this cage. 20 years passed. They were the busiest years in human history. Deep beneath the surface of Titan, workers built shipyards larger than cities. Inside Europa's frozen ocean, engineers assembled engines that could break the laws of physics. On Mars, pilots trained in simulators that prepared them for a kind of war that had never existed before. Lieutenant Ji Wuhan was one of those pilots. He was 25 years old, born after the project began, raised knowing that his entire purpose was to fly ships that would change everything. He had never seen an alien. He had never seen a world beyond the solar system. But he had studied them all. He knew their languages, their cultures, their military tactics. He knew them better than they knew themselves. On the day of the first test flight, Jiwoo sat in the pilot seat of the battleship Eternal Dawn. The ship was 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapons that could erase mountains from existence. Admiral Yuna Park, now 72 years old but still sharp as ever, gave the order from the command center. "Lieutenant Han," she said through the communicator, "take us through the barrier." Jiwoo's hands moved across the controls. The dark matter engines hummed to life. Purple light filled the windows. And then, without any sense of movement at all, the Eternal Dawn was on the other side of the Council's energy barrier. Alarms began to sound across 1,000 worlds. The forgotten species had returned. The alarm reached the Council of the Stars within minutes. On the ancient ringworld of Solar Prime, 12 alien leaders sat in a chamber that had not changed in 10,000 years. They had built empires. They had destroyed civilizations. They had decided the fate of billions. And now they were staring at a screen that showed something impossible. Counselor Verith of the Luminary was the first to speak. He was tall and thin, with skin that glowed like moonlight and eyes that had seen 4,000 years pass. His voice was calm, but those who knew him could hear the fear beneath it. "The barrier has been broken," he said. A ship came through. It did not break the barrier. It simply appeared on the other side. "That is impossible," said Counselor Moga of the Stone People. His body was made of living rock, and he had personally helped design the barrier 3 centuries ago. Nothing can pass through without destroying the entire grid. The energy required would be greater than a star. "And yet," Vera said, "here is the proof." The screen showed a recording from a monitoring station. One moment, there was empty space. The next moment, there was a ship. It was massive, larger than anything the Council had ever built. It was black as the void between stars, and it glowed with a strange purple light that seemed to bend the space around it. "What species built this?" asked Counselor Yira of the Flowing Ones. Her body was made of liquid metal that constantly shifted and changed. Varath's glowing skin flickered. "The humans." Silence fell over the chamber. The humans. The primitive, violent creatures they had locked away and forgotten. The species they had expected to destroy itself within a few generations. "Send a fleet," said Counselor Moga. 50 ships. Find out what they have built and destroy it. The fleet was assembled within days. 50 warships, each one capable of burning a continent to ash, jumped through space toward the human solar system. Captain Myra Choi watched them come from the bridge of the Unbroken Will, humanity's second great battleship. She was 38 years old, with short hair and a scar across her cheek from a training accident years ago. She had spent her entire adult life preparing for this moment. "Admiral Park," she said into her communicator. "The Council fleet is approaching. 50 vessels. They will reach our position in 3 hours." Admiral Yuna Park's voice came back steady and calm. "Do not fire unless fired upon, but show them what we can do." "Understood," Myra said. She turned to her crew. Prepare for dimensional shift. We are going to walk through their flagship. The Council fleet arrived expecting a battle. They found empty space. Their sensors showed nothing. Their weapons had nothing to target. The human ship had simply vanished, and then it appeared again. The Unbroken will materialize directly inside the Council flagship. Not next to it. Inside it. The human ship's nose pushed through the alien bridge like a ghost walking through a wall. Alarm screamed. Crew members ran in panic. The flagship's captain, a veteran of 100 battles, watched in frozen horror as 2 kilometers of human warship passed through his vessel without touching anything. The Unbroken emerged from the other side and stopped. Captain Mayray opened the communication channel to the Council fleet. "This is Captain Myra Choi of the Earth vessel Unbroken Will," she said. "We have no desire for war. But if you attack us, we will not simply defeat you. We will erase you from existence. You have seen what we can do. Tell your council." She ended the transmission and ordered the Unbroken Will to return to space. Behind her, the Council fleet did not move. They could not move. Every captain, every crew member, every soldier was frozen in shock. They had spent their careers believing they were the masters of space. They had weapons that could crack planets. They had ships that could travel faster than light, and the humans had just walked through their walls like ghosts. The message reached Councilor Vareth 3 hours later. He watched the recording 17 times. He watched the human ship appear inside the flagship. He watched it pass through metal and energy shields as if they were not there. He watched it emerge without a single scratch. "What are we going to do?" asked Councilor Uravareth did not answer for a long time. He was 4,000 years old. He had seen the rise and fall of countless species. He had helped write the rules that governed the galaxy. And he had never, in all those years, felt fear like this. "We are going to do something we have never done before," he finally said. "We are going to invite them to speak with us. We are going to summon the humans to Solar Prime." Back on Earth, Admiral Unipark received the summons with a thin smile. She had waited 72 years for this moment. She had given her entire life to this moment. "Tell them we accept," she said. "But we will not come alone." In the shipyards of Titan and the hidden bases of Europa, 200 dark matter warships powered up their engines. The silent fleet was ready to rise. Ambassador G.A. Seo had prepared for this moment her entire life. Her mother had been a diplomat before the barrier was built, one of the last humans to ever speak with alien species. Her mother had died with stories of the stars on her lips, stories of worlds humanity would never see, of species humanity would never meet. G.A. had grown up with those stories. She had memorized them. She had made them her purpose dawn. Now she stood in the shuttle bay of the Eternal Dawn, wearing a simple black uniform with no medals or decorations. Admiral Unipark stood beside her, older now but still standing straight and proud. "Are you ready?" the Admiral asked. G.A. looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, on an ancient ringworld built before humans had learned to make fire, 12 alien leaders were waiting for her. They expected her to be afraid. They expected her to beg for mercy. They expected a primitive creature from a primitive world. They were going to be disappointed. "I have been ready for 300 years, G.A. said. "My grandmother was ready. My mother was ready. Now it is my turn." She walked into the shuttle alone. It was a small ship, barely large enough for 10 people. It had no weapons, no shields, nothing that could threaten the Council. But G.A. did not need weapons. She had something better. The journey to Solar Prime took only moments. The shuttle's dark matter engine carried it across thousands of light years in the time it took to breathe. When G.A. looked out the window again, she saw the ringworld for the first time. It was enormous. a ring of metal and stone that circled an artificial sun, large enough to hold 1 billion creatures from 100 different species. Cities covered its surface like moss on a stone. Ships flew between towers that reached into the sky. It was the heart of galactic civilization, the center of all power, the place where the fate of worlds was decided, and humanity had never been allowed to see it. Jihe's shuttle landed in a docking bay larger than most Earth cities. Guards were waiting for her. They were from different species, some tall and thin, some short and wide, some made of metal, some made of light. They all looked at her with the same expression: curiosity, fear, disgust. She walked past them without a word. The council chamber was at the heart of the ring world. A massive room with no ceiling, open to the artificial sky above. 12 chairs were arranged in a circle, each one designed for a different body type. The counselors were already seated, their eyes fixed on the small human woman who walked into their domain. Counselor Vareth spoke first. Ambassador CO, you are the first human to stand in this chamber in 300 years. Do you understand the honor we have given you? GA stopped in the center of the circle and looked around at each counselor in turn. She took her time. She wanted them to see that she was not afraid. Honor? She said. Her voice was calm and clear. You locked my species in a cage. You told us we were too violent to join your civilization. You left us to die alone in the dark. And now you call it an honor to let me stand here. The counselors shifted in their seats. They were not used to being spoken to like this. They were used to fear and respect and begging. You have developed dangerous technology, said Counselor Moga. You must surrender it to us for the safety of the galaxy. Your ships, your weapons, your scientists. All of it. In return, we will allow you to join our civilization under supervision. Under supervision? Jihei repeated. Like children. Like animals. Like a species that cannot be trusted, Counselor Yura said. Your history proves what you are. War after war. Death after death. You are destroyers. Jihei smiled. It was not a warm smile. Yes, we are destroyers. You are correct about that. But do you know what you did when you locked us away? You gave us 300 years with nothing to do but think. Nothing to do but build. Nothing to do but prepare. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small communication device. The guards around the room raised their weapons, but GA did not move. You want our technology? She said. You want our ships? Let me show them to you first. Then you can decide if you still want to make demands. She pressed a button on the device and spoke 2 words. Admiral Park, now. For 1 heartbeat, nothing happened. The counselors looked at each other in confusion. And then the sky above the chamber changed. Ships appeared. Not 1 or 2 or 10. 200. 200 massive black warships, each one glowing with purple light, each one larger than anything the council had ever built. They appeared from nowhere, stepping out of a dimension the council did not know existed, surrounding the ringworld in a perfect sphere. Counselor Vareth stood up slowly. His glowing skin had gone pale. His ancient eyes were wide with something he had not felt in 4,000 years. Pure terror. This is the Dark Fleet, Jihei said. Every ship can walk through matter. Every ship can erase anything from existence. Every ship has a crew that has spent their entire lives preparing for war with you. She paused and looked up at the sky full of human warships. Now, would you like to discuss your terms again? The council chamber fell silent. Not one of the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy could find words to speak. The silence lasted for 37 seconds. In that time, Counselor Vareth aged 1,000 years. He had seen empires burn. He had watched species go extinct. He had made decisions that ended billions of lives. But he had never felt small. He had never felt helpless until now. "You would threaten us?" Counselor Moga finally said. His voice was rough and angry, the voice of someone who refused to accept what his eyes were showing him. "We have 3,000 warships in this system alone. We could destroy your fleet before you fired a single shot." Ambassador Ga Seo did not answer. She simply looked up at the sky and waited. Admiral Una Park's voice came through the speakers in the chamber, calm and clear as always. "Counselor Moga, you have 3,000 ships. We have 200. You are correct that those numbers favor you. But numbers only matter when both sides are playing the same game." High above the ringworld, the eternal dawn moved forward from the fleet. It approached a small moon that orbited the artificial sun, a dead rock covered with old mining equipment that no one had used in centuries. "Watch carefully," Admiral Park said. A beam of purple light shot from the eternal dawn. It touched the moon for less than 1 second. The moon did not explode. There was no fire, no debris, no cloud of dust spreading through space. One moment the moon was there, a solid piece of rock that had existed for millions of years. The next moment it was gone. Completely gone. Nothing remained except a perfect sphere of empty space where the moon used to be. Inside the council chamber, Counselor Moga sat down heavily. His stone body made the chair crack beneath him. He did not notice. "That moon was 200 kilometers wide," he said. His voice was barely a whisper. "Your weapon erased it in less than a second." "Our weapons can erase anything," Admiral Park said. "Your ships, your stations, your worlds. We do not destroy matter. We remove it from existence. There is no defense. There is no shield. There is nothing you can do to stop us." Counselor Yura's liquid metal body was trembling, losing its shape. "This cannot be real. No species can develop such technology in 300 years. It is impossible." "You taught us an important lesson when you locked us away," Jihei said. "You taught us that the galaxy would never accept us as we were. So we became something else. Something new. Something you cannot understand." She stepped forward, closer to the circle of counselors. "We did not come here to conquer you. We did not come here to destroy you. We came here because we are tired of being forgotten." High Counselor Morath had not spoken yet. He was the oldest member of the council, a being of pure energy that had existed for 10,000 years. He had voted to quarantine humanity. He had signed the order that built the barrier. He had believed, truly believed, that he was protecting the galaxy from a dangerous species. Now he rose from his chair, his form flickering like a dying star. "What have you become?" he asked. Admiral Park answered through the speakers. "We became what you made us. You called us violent, so we learned to make violence absolute. You called us primitive, so we mastered science that your greatest mind said was impossible. You wanted us forgotten. We chose to become unforgettable." Morath floated down to stand before Ga. He was 3 times her height, made of light and energy, older than human civilization. And he looked at this small woman from a small world with something like wonder. "You could destroy us all," he said. "Right now. You could erase this ringworld and everyone on it. You could erase every ship in our fleet. You could become the masters of the galaxy in a single day." "Yes," Ga said. "We could. Then why do you not?" Ga was quiet for a moment. She thought about her mother, who had dreamed of seeing the stars. She thought about Admiral Park, who had given 72 years to build a fleet that could end civilizations. She thought about Dr. Tyo Kim, who had unlocked the secrets of dark matter but could not sleep at night because of what his discovery could do. "Because that is not who we want to be," she finally said. "We built these ships because we had no choice. We made these weapons because you forced us to. But we do not want to use them. We do not want to be destroyers. We want to be explorers. We want to see the stars that you kept from us. We want to meet the species you said we were not worthy to know. We want to be part of something larger than ourselves." She looked around the chamber at the 12 counselors. These ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for longer than humanity had existed. "We want to be your equals," she said. "Not your masters. Not your servants. Equals. Can you understand that?" The silence returned. But this time, it was different. This time, it was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of beings who were thinking, truly thinking. For the first time in centuries, Lieutenant Ji Wuhan watched from the bridge of the eternal dawn as the council chamber went quiet. He was recording everything as he had been ordered to do. Someday, he knew, children would watch this recording in schools. They would see the moment when humanity stopped being prisoners and started being something else. He just hoped they would understand the weight of what they were seeing. 1 week passed. In that time, the galaxy changed more than it had in 1,000 years. The council voted to lift the barrier around Earth's solar system. The vote was unanimous. 12 hands raised, 12 voices saying yes, not because they wanted to, but because they had no choice. The species they had tried to forget had become impossible to ignore. Ambassador Jie Sao sat in the negotiation chamber across from Councillor Vareth. The room was smaller than the main chamber, designed for quiet conversations rather than grand speeches. Vareth looked tired. His glowing skin was dim, and his ancient eyes carried a weight that Jie had not seen before. "We are prepared to offer humanity junior membership in the council," Vareth said. "You would have a voice in our decisions. You would have access to our trade networks. You would be part of galactic civilization at last." Jie shook her head slowly. "Junior membership? You mean we would sit at your table but not have an equal vote? You mean we would follow your rules but not help make them? You mean we would be members but not truly part of the family? It is more than any species has been offered in 5,000 years," Vareth said. "And it is not enough," Jihei replied. "We want equal standing. Full membership. 1 vote among 13, not a voice that can be ignored when it becomes inconvenient." Vareth leaned back in his chair. "You ask for much. We spent 300 years in a cage," Jihei said. "We ask for what we deserve." The negotiations continued for 3 more days. In the end, the council agreed to humanity's terms. They had no choice. The dark fleet still hung in the sky above Solara Prime, a constant reminder of what would happen if the talks failed. But something unexpected happened during those 3 days. While the leaders argued about votes and treaties, the common people of the galaxy began to talk. A young pilot from a species called the Wanderers sent a message to Lieutenant Ji Wuhan. Her name was translated as something like bright wind, and she had been watching the human fleet with wonder rather than fear. Her species had been under the council's thumb for 2,000 years, always following, never leading. She wanted to know if humanity might be interested in friendship. A scientist from the Stone People reached out to Dr. Taiho Kim. He was young for his kind, only 800 years old, and he had been studying dark matter for centuries without making any progress. He wanted to know how the humans had done what everyone said was impossible. A trader from the Flowing Ones approached a human cargo ship and asked if Earth might be interested in commerce. She had goods that no human had ever seen, foods and materials and technologies from 100 worlds. She thought humans might have things to offer in return. Within a week, humanity was no longer alone. Admiral Una Park returned to Earth as the greatest hero in human history. Crowds gathered to watch her ship descend through the atmosphere. Children pointed at the sky and shouted her name. Leaders from every nation on Earth waited to shake her hand. But Una felt no joy. She stood at the window of her quarters on the eternal dawn and looked down at the blue world where she had been born. She thought about the weapon she had helped create. She thought about the moon that had been erased from existence in less than a second. She thought about how easy it would be to do the same thing to a city or a continent or an entire world. We proved that we can end anything, she said to herself. Now we have to prove that we can build something. Dr. Taiho Kim stood beside her. He was old now, his hair white and his hands shaky. But his mind was still sharp, still racing with ideas and worries and dreams. I think about it every day, he said. The power we created, the things it could do. I wonder if I made the right choice. You gave us freedom, Yuna said. That was the right choice. But at what cost? Taiho asked. What happens when someone uses this technology for the wrong reasons? What happens when someone decides to erase something that should not be erased? Yuna did not have an answer. She was not sure anyone did. 1 month later, a new chair was added to the council chamber. It was the 13th chair, designed for a human body, placed among the 12 seats of the elder species. It represented everything humanity had fought for. It represented their place among the stars at Lost Dot, and it was empty. Ambassador Ji Haeseo had sent a message to the council explaining why. We do not want to rule the stars, she had written. We just wanted to walk among them. When you are ready to see us as equals, not as threats to contain or members to control, we will talk again. Until then, the chair will remain empty. It will remind you of what could have been and what might still be if you learn to see us clearly. Lieutenant Ji Wuhan wrote the final entry in his personal log on the day the fleet returned home. He sat in his small quarters on the eternal dawn, looking out at the stars that humanity could finally reach. They wanted silence from us for 300 years, he wrote. Today, we gave them silence in return. But I hope our children use these ships to build bridges, not graves. We have proven we can end anything. Now we must prove we can begin something better. He closed his log and walked to the observation deck. Other crew members were there, looking out at Earth as it grew larger in the windows. Some were crying. Some were laughing. Some were just standing in silence, trying to understand what they had done and what it meant. The Dark Fleet had given humanity their freedom. But freedom was just the beginning. Now came the hard part. Now came the future dot, and for the first time in 300 years, humanity would face that future with their eyes on the stars.